Hello, in today's video we are going to learn about the print function in Python. I know that if you have watched the earlier videos, then you might know that whenever we want to print something in Python, we use the print function. But there are some workarounds with this specific print function that we can use to leverage our workaround. And today I'm going to show you some of them which might come in handy, especially whenever you want to work with Python and you want to print something in the terminal. So let's get started. For example, whenever we want to print something, we normally use the print function and we enclose the specific string or word or sentence or whatever we want to print in the terminal in a single quote or the double quote. So for example, I'm using double quote here and I'm writing something like I am Fahim. If I want to print it, obviously I can do that. And let's say I have two different variables. Let's say I have one variable named x and x contains an integer value and that is 2, and I have another variable, let's say y, and y contains a double value or float value, you can say right now. So let's say I have a value something like 2.89 here. So if I want to print them, I can use the same print function here as well. So for example, I want to print the value for x, so I can simply use print x. And keep in mind that whenever I want to specifically print the value of a variable, I don't use any type of quotation mark. Let me show you first. So whenever I'm running this code, you see that it's exactly printing the value for x, the value which resides in the variable named x, but it's not printing x here as well because we are not using any quotation mark here. But what if we used quotation? Let me show you how that actually works. So for example, I'm using quotation. It instantly changes because it identifies this x not as a variable but as a specific string. You know, whenever we want to print something, we use double quote. I mean, whenever we want to print any string, and string can be anything. It can be a single word, it can be a single letter, it can be a sentence, it can be multiple sentences, it can contain special characters and so on. All of them are considered as a string. And whenever we want to work with string, we use double quote or the single quote. All right. So in line number 7, whenever I am using quotation, it doesn't matter whether I am using single quote or double quote, I am using quotation. It specifies Python that, hey, I want to print whatever I am writing inside this quotation. I'm not indicating that I want to print any variable name. So this doesn't work that way. If you want to print any variable's value, then you don't use any quotation mark. And if you don't want to print the value of any variable, you can use quotation mark like this. All right, so it goes like this. Now this question might come to your mind that, hey, I have understood that whenever I want to print the values of variable, I don't use any quotation mark, but whenever I don't want to print any value for the variable, or let's say I simply want to print anything I want it to print, I don't want to print any specific value of any variable, I use quotation mark. That's fine. But what if I want to print both of them? For example, let's say I'm simply commenting this here. Let's say you want to print something like this. You want that the output would become something like this, x equal and the value. Then what can you do? The answer is pretty simple. Let us work it out. So I can simply use the print statement, I mean print function, because whenever we want to print something in a terminal, what we use the print function, obviously. So you see, let us analyze how we want our output become. All right, so firstly I am saying that I want to print and I want to print I string. We can consider this as string, and if I want to keep a space before printing the value of the variable, I can also consider this space inclusive in that string as well. So this is a part of string. All right, so I can simply use single quote or double quote. For now, let me simply use double quote because I normally use double quote a lot. So print x equal a single space. All right, so this is the part of the string. So if I simply run it, you see that it's simply printing x equal and a space. You can't see the space because this is grayed out here, but I can guarantee you that it's definitely printing a space here because that is inclusive in that specific string. Now the question comes, how can I print the value for x? Well, you can print multiple variables value using comma. So for example, I want to print the value for the variable x after printing this string. So what I can do, I can simply use a comma and I can provide the variable name x. You see, whenever I want to specify that, hey, this x is not part of the string, or this x is not string, this x means a variable, I don't use any quotation here, right? So now if I simply run it, you see x equal 2. And it actually doesn't matter whether you are using any extra line or a lot of extra lines or something like that, because the output would be same. Now let me show you a cool thing. What Python normally does here is that you see that I have already added space here because I thought that I would make it part of that string. But whenever you use a comma, what Python normally does, it automatically adds a space before the variable's value. So only for that case I am getting two spaces here. So if I don't want the additional space, what I can do, I can obviously solve it by anyways, but as this beginner friendly video, so let me keep it very simple for you. We don't give any extra space here, and let me show you the difference as well. You see that there's no extra additional space going on here. So that's how you can do that. And for the convention, we don't keep any extra spaces here because you get the point, right? Because that doesn't look good anyway. And there goes it. And obviously you can print not only multiple values, but you can also print multiple type of values, or you can say multiple data types values using a single print function. Let me show you how actually that works. So for example, I am simply printing x comma y, and that means firstly I am printing the value for the variable x, and then I am printing the value for the variable y. All right, not string but the data type inclusive. All right, so if I simply run it, you see that it's printing the value for x, which is 2. And as I have already told you that whenever we use comma, Python automatically adds an extra space before that, I mean before writing the next variable's value. So then y has the value 2.89 and it's printing there. So that it goes. And now let me show you some other calculations as well. For example, I have x equal to 2, I have y equal to 2.89, and let's say I have another variable, let's say z equals 4. Now I can I can make many calculations in Python obviously, but if I don't want to add extra line, for example, sum equal to x plus y, subtraction equal to x minus y, or a equal to x plus y, b equal to x minus y, or something like that, I can simply make all of the calculations directly in the print function as well. So how we can do that? Right, we can simply use the print function, and let's say I want to add x with y, so I can simply use x plus y. You see I haven't added any quotation here because I don't want to print any type of string here. I simply want the exact calculation of these two variables, so I can simply use this, and if I simply run it, you see that it's generating the output. Now why there are so many digits after this? Because Python works kind of differently in a sense. For example, you see that I have tried to add x with y. Here x is an integer number, but y is a float, or you can say double number. So whenever we make calculations with integer, with double or float, it actually targets the maximum one. In that case, maximum one is float, or you can say double, because it has more values, right? So whenever we want to add any different types of data, not like string with integer, I mean numerical data with string or something like that, that won't work. But whenever we are thinking about numerical type data, for example integer, for example double or float, Python normally works like this. It gets the specific data type which has maximum values in it, and then it tries to modify the calculation like this. For example, here I have provided x plus y. So x is a one digit data, that's fine, but y is a three digit data, we can say that. So whenever we want to add these two, we know that we are not saying anything after 2, but in reality it actually has something. For example 2.00 and 2 is similar, so it's calculating these two. And as we haven't specified how many specific digits we want after the radix point, or you can say after this point, so it's getting general length. So how many lengths? 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15. You guess how it calculates, right? So there goes it. But let's say I want to print something else. Let's say I have x an integer and z is also an integer, and I want to get their summation. So it would work, sorry, x plus z, and you see it's working because both of them are the same data type, both of them are integers. So the calculation is very simple and straightforward. But whenever we want to calculate different data types, so there would be some changes like I have just showed you right now. So there goes that. And most importantly, you don't have any impact whenever you want to calculate variables value. For example, let me show you something right now. So here I have added x space operator, plus operator, addition operator, you can say that, and then a single space and the second variable. But if you don't give any spaces between them, that would also work. It won't create any harm because we are not thinking about string, we are simply thinking about the values the variable gives us, right? So that's how it goes. And let's say, let me show you something else. Let's say I have xyz, and let's say I have another variable named a, and a contains my name Fahim. So let's try something different. For example, I want to add 2 with Fahim. I know that 2, I mean x is an integer variable, but a is a string. So how can that happen? So let us figure that out. X plus a. So let's see how actually that works. Before running this code, let me simply comment out the previous ones because I don't need those right now. So if I simply run, you see that it's getting us an error. So, and it also tells you that unsupported type error, integer and string can't be calculated together like this. So you guess how that actually works. As I have already told you that you can calculate different types of numerical data, but you can't calculate numerical type data with string type data or something, or vice versa. I mean, you guess what I mean, right? So that goes. And there are some more workaround which we would focus later. So see you then.